This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good night, Danielle Craig. How are you doing on this wonderful, beautiful night?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to connect with you. What part of the world are you in right now?
I'm in Southern Oregon in the U.S. and in a tiny little town on the bottom of Oregon.
All right. What's the name of that town?
Medford.
All right. I'm
And
familiar.
it's not that tiny, but if you've lived in really big cities, I came here from Las Vegas. So compared to Las Vegas, it was a lot smaller.
Yeah. Medford is popular for, I think, like these plays, right? These Shakespeare plays, right?
Yes. Yep. We have Shakespeare. We have craft beer. We have wineries. We're called the Little Napa.
Yeah, definitely. we passed close to it on our way down south, but yes, didn't stop there. But a friend that we met, she was going across there for one of those Shakespearean events that they have somewhere around August. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You'll have to stop by next time.
Yes, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. Well, do tell us which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this specific time in history.
I love how you ask that question. I am an Emmy-award winning journalist. I spent about a decade and a half in journalism and then just recently got out of that and am now a podcast host. I host the podcast Happiness in Progress and a public speaker as well.
That's wonderful. Wow, you're doing a ton of things. So, all right. Everything you've spoken about sounds like curiosity is a core component of it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I think that's why I love your podcast so much because we get to learn about so many different people so quickly.
Yeah, well, tell us about your podcast and what you do there, please.
Well, the big switch for me from journalism to my podcast was in 2017. I'm going in my job and I'm just kind of going on a hamster wheel of life. And my husband, one afternoon, passed out. I called the paramedics. The paramedics came and he had come to and it seemed like everything was fine. And then when he was connected to the paramedics machines, his heart stopped. He flatlined for 8 seconds. They brought him back and everything was fine. Everything's fine today. He's fine. But that moment was a moment that made me question everything I believed about life. My perspective totally changed, mostly because just maybe a week before this happened, I told my husband, I'm not happy where we are right now. And I wasn't talking about a relationship. I was just talking about in life, where we were with the job. I wanted this. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be doing this. And I just felt like our life wasn't enough. And in that moment, a week later, when his heart stopped, I realized, oh my goodness, I'm letting my life slip by because I'm worried it's not enough. And that's not okay. I've got to enjoy the moment right now before one day somebody I truly love flatlines and that's the end of their life.
That's amazing. That's amazing. The revelation you got at that time. It's great as well that you listened to it. So tell me about the financial side of it. Like, did it pan out, or were you like getting challenges to make money in the midst of that?
Things have come together actually pretty quickly. And I hate to say that just like, oh, it's easy, because it's not easy. And I'm not quite to where I was, how much I was making before. But things have come together really quickly and really seamlessly. And I've found sponsors easily. And I've been able to do freelancing jobs with my other talents. And it really hasn't been a major struggle for me.
That's
but
cool.
I say that with it's still hard. It's when you decide to go off on your own, that's risky. And so I want to make sure to really say that the risk is real and that's a serious thing. But I also have my husband who also brings, financial components to our home. So that also helps.
That's wonderful. What's the stress level like in comparison to before?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm just getting ready to do something I've never done before, and it's not yet announced. So with that, the stress level's a little bit high because it's risk. I'm putting myself and my money on the line to make something happen I've never made happen. So that part has a little bit of stress. But as far as my daily stress was so high, living in a life in a world where I was getting up at 2 a.m. and trying to do all of the things before I went to bed at 9 p.m. and started again the next day with only a few hours of sleep. And I'm just, merry-go-round of life, going, trying to survive the day, always underwater, just trying to get a breath of air. And now I don't have that. Now even though I loved that job, now I'm able to find time for myself, find time for my kids and my husband and these amazing people that I interview. And that's really an incredible component to my life now.
That's wonderful. I'm glad that you made that decision. I love that. Do tell us one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please.
It's so funny that that's a question because my last 3 years changed dramatically. So what is one thing I've done in the crazy life and in the life now where I'm a little more mindful? It is a mindfulness practice. So some type of mindfulness practice, whether that's journaling or meditating or praying, I have done consistently over the last 3 years.
How does it make you feel?
Calm. It gives me space. It gives me a moment. It's that fresh air.
Why would you suggest to someone that's listening that they do that as well?
I tell everyone to try to take 5 minutes. And it doesn't have to be meditating. I know some people that scares them. It doesn't have to be praying. I know some people aren't religious. It doesn't even have to be journaling because I know people don't like to write. It just has to be 5 minutes where you're not on a gadget, where you're not talking to someone, where you are just sitting and maybe observing, just sitting for 5 minutes, because it will really truly change your life, especially in our our nonstop go days that we have now.
Well, amazing audience. You're hearing it live from Danielle Craig. Again, she is the podcast host of Happiness in Progress. I love that name. She's an Emmy-award winning journalist. Of course, she puts in there that she is, first of all, a mom of 2 boys and a new baby girl. Love it. Danielle, let's switch gears for a moment. Let me now invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Danielle, what's your earliest childhood memory?
It is when I was 3 years old, if you can believe that. I was so young, but I remember so vividly being in the earthquake in the San Francisco Bay Area in 1989. Huge earthquake there, and I still remember I was standing next to a pool in our apartment complex, and there was a kid who was splashing me and my friend. In fact, I always thought that this kid caused the earthquake by splashing us, a 3-year-old mind, but he's splashing us, and suddenly there was a bigger wave that came out of the pool. I remember turning around and seeing the apartment buildings kind of rocking back and forth. And in that moment, I thought of Sesame Street, again, 3-year-old mind, and how in Sesame Street they had graphics where the buildings danced from side to side. My mom came outside just screaming, grabbed us really quickly, put us under the table inside. And I remember, and the memories are so vivid, it's so amazing. The Cheerios falling out of the cabinet and just scattering all over the floor, and me having a thought about, should I eat those Cheerios? No, this is too much of a stressful time. And that's it. After the shaking stopped, I remember going to my room, and I had all these little figurines we had just got the day before, and there was only one that survived. All of the other ones crushed, and I just had one left. And that's my very first memory.
That's amazing. That is a detailed memory. How do you see it connecting to who you are today?
I think it's definitely part of my journey. I went into news, and my first memory is a major news event. And then even more so, what I do now and talking about perspective and looking outside of yourself, that on that day, what I thought was so upsetting was I lost a whole bunch of figurines. I only had one figurine left. But that day was the worst day of dozens of people's lives. Dozens of people were killed, more than 1,000 injured. And I think that goes into what I talk about today is finding perspective, looking outside of yourself and realizing you can totally handle what you've been given because people are dealing with something worse somewhere else.
That's beautiful. Wow. Can I jump in here? Can I give an interpretation to the thought picture?
Yes.
Yeah. I love the fact that we saw that memory, again, another level, but with the experience that you had with your husband, where we can equate that to a natural disaster that he experienced. And again, you saw through it and you are living in action from that experience, the good, the positive. Like you've made another decision in the midst of, again, what can look as a natural disaster. And I love how you're doing that time and time again. And now you're helping people understand happiness and progress. Like, yeah, the challenge is part and parcel of it, but you can decide to be mindful, one, and then to make the decision to make the best of it. And that's beautiful.
Wow. I love that insight. Love that.
If we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
Summer Girls by LFO.
Love it.
I was 12.
Love it. All right, my friend. Well, we've arrived at our destination. But before we get off of this time machine, there is a small declaration form. So it's yes or no. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready, Danielle?
Yes.
Danielle, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Yes.
Are you married? Yes.
Yes.
Do you have children?
Yes.
Do you believe in God?
What'd you say?
Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Yes.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
How about 3 hours a week?
Yes.
What about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
It's close if it's not 8. I do all my work on the screens.
If you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents who you are, Danielle Craig, what would you say that is?
Oh, that's a hard one. I don't really have a slogan, but I do believe that life is not... I think that life can be enjoyed every minute of every day. I think that we get too caught up in having to be enough. We have to be at a certain weight. We have to be at a certain marital status or have a certain amount of children or make a certain amount of money or have a certain job to be happy. But happiness is not in the destination. Happiness is in the pursuit. And we get confused by that because it's the pursuit of happiness. But the pursuit is where we find that happiness.
Love it. Danielle, this was such a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Oh, my goodness. I don't think so. I think we covered everything. I should have been prepared for that one.
You're good.
That's a question that we have to ask as journalists. We learn. Ask when you're a journalist. Anything else you want to add? And I think we got through a lot.
You did well. You did well, my friend. Danielle Craig, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you so much. I've loved being here.
You're welcome. It was great having you as well.
This segment has been brought to you by Amazel Enterprise.